Most of us are begging God to multiply our business while we're still hiding half of our loaves and keeping both fish just in case. But the boy in John 6 hands over everything, not because he thinks it's enough, but because he trusts the one he's giving it to. Today, we're not talking about prosperity. We're talking about partnership, the divine kind, the kind that takes the tiny sacred pieces of what you have and multiplies them beyond anything you could create alone. This is the theology of abundance, and it changes how you walk into 2026. Welcome back to Real Talk with Katie Kim, coming to you again from my silent retreat where scripture has been reading me more than I've been reading it. Today, we're diving into John 6, verse 1 through 13, the story of the boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish. His lunch, not a business, not a product, not a batch to sell, just what he packed for the journey and what God used to feed thousands. And here's what changed everything for me over this weekend. God is not asking you to be enough. God is asking you to hand over what you already have because He is enough. Abundance is not what you produce. It's what God does when you surrender the small things you've been guarding, your small energy, your small faith, your small forgiveness, your small courage, your small ideas, your small budget, your small bandwidth. Jesus doesn't ask the boy, is that all? He asks, how many loaves do you have? And he takes it and the boy gives it. This is a story about stewardship, trust, multiplication, and refusal to waste anything because the punchline is stunning. Jesus feeds everybody, right? Thousands of people, and still says at the end, gather the leftovers so that nothing is wasted. In God's economy, nothing surrendered is ever wasted. This is the business strategy we're learning today. So let's go deeper. What's in your hands? What are your actual 5 loaves and 2 fish in your business? The small things you think are insignificant. What are you still hiding in fear? It's not enough. Is it the projections, the runway, the growth? Nobody knows this. I can't let anybody know this about my business. Let's talk about the boy's faith versus the founder logic here, right? Let's tie this together. The boy didn't calculate an ROI. He didn't calculate an IRR, right? He offered relationship. Where in your business are you over calculating instead of trusting? Now, I'm not saying throw caution to the wind, right? But where are you over calculating instead of trusting? What would a bold offer look like right now, right? Because sometimes we mislabel our resources. Meaning, what have you been calling not enough that God may see as a calling seed, right? Or a seed for growth? What do you need to rename so you can release it? Because abundance begins with surrender. So what is the one thing you've been saving for a rainy day rather than placing fully in God's hands? You know, how often are we asking ourselves or holding ourselves back from multiplication? How is not placing everything you have in His hand multiplication, right? And the one thing that I always struggled with is like, oh, I have to make this enough. I have to make this enough. Or, you know, even in the journey of forgiveness, right? Which we all have different journeys and we all have different pains that we need to forgive people from, especially this holiday season. And what hit me on that journey was that God doesn't promise to make you enough, right? He is enough. So where are you still hustling for worthiness? You know, trying to prove yourself instead of trusting God's sufficiency, trusting that God is enough and that He already has made you enough, and turning it over, turning your trust, following that path of peace. He's going to make it enough. How does it feel to shift the focus from self-sufficiency to divine partnership? Having God on the board, right? Because nothing is wasted. So what part of your story, even the failures, right? Even the failures, do you see God gathering His leftovers to feed others, right? A lot of times on my journey, I'd be like, well, don't know how that's going to be used. Okay. And then a couple of years later, I was like, I see you, God. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. I look at my professional journey of getting my master's of computer science and doing the strategic business consulting that we did, the technical consulting with a global company, flying all over the world to work in different companies and different cultures, then going to work for a startup, right? How does that work with not a lot of processes, but we're trying to get it all structured, to then go into a family business structure, to eventually launching my own business. And I was thinking, wow, I've pivoted a lot. Like, how am I using all that? And now I see this beautiful tapestry that God has made for every single one of those experiences, ties everything I do today together. I mean, he really brought it home in a very beautiful way, and we're not done yet. So how can you use your experiences transparently in your leadership? Where are you giving God only one loaf, but you're gripping onto the other four of like, here you go, here's this, but you can't have this because it's my security, it's my blanket, right? If everything goes wrong, I still have this. And what would it mean to hand all of it over? Now, what are you holding back from putting it on the table? What are you holding yourself back from sitting at the table, taking that seat, being present? Because the boy wasn't a vendor. And that's where I thought it was kind of interesting, because how many times have you assumed that God needed your expertise or your productivity when all he wanted was your willingness? Where are we overcomplicating things? Because I don't know about you, but I know I still do it. So to dig a little further in, stay with me on this. Where are you planning your journey versus trusting God's plan? Where did you pack for your business journey that God is transforming you into something better, something bigger? Because here's one thing I thought was interesting about this story, that I honestly thought that the boy was a vendor, right? I thought he was selling the loaves and the fish. And what I learned was that that was what he packed for his journey, for his lunch, for his, going to see Jesus and not knowing how long he was going to be there and all the things, right? He wanted to make sure he was fed for his journey. So how does that change that story in your mindset? Because it did for me. This boy offered everything he packed for himself to keep himself fed on that journey because he knew God would multiply it. He knew it would be enough. He trusted in that plan, right? So where have you underestimated how God can use what you've brought, intentionally or unintentionally, right? Because it's that from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset. And where are you still living as if you'll run out, right? What story about scarcity needs to die before 2026 starts? So you can have this capacity for expansion. If God multiplied your little tomorrow, is your business structurally ready for overflow? This is a big one. And I'm going to say it again. If God multiplied your little, and I'm putting quotes if you're not watching on YouTube or somewhere you can see the video. If God multiplied your little tomorrow, is your business structurally ready for overflow? Now, a lot of my clients that I work with, they are looking to scale their business and add real estate as a revenue stream, building financial wealth, adding economic incentives so they can scale 3 to 5 times for only 1 to 2 times the cost. And so we have to look at the business and how it is structurally created at this point in time. And if we 10x, 15x, 16x, 20x that business, where is it going to overload, right? Where do we need systems so that abundance doesn't break them, right? Where do we need systems that can grow and go as we start to multiply in our business, as we start to get that overflow of abundance? And that is something really to look at your business as you start to ramp down 2025 and look at what 2026 is going to bring in. Because this is not a miracle where the miracle didn't just feed the boy, it fed thousands. So where is your business meant to impact beyond you? Who needs your overflow? You created your business for a reason. What's your why? What's your mission? And are you ready to start pouring into it with the same passion you did to start your business? Are you ready to lean into that season of abundance, to hand it over, to trust, to follow that path of peace, right? So the theology of enough is, do you believe God is enough, truly? How does that belief change how you lead or how you will lead in 2026? I want you to say out loud, I will hand over all 5 loaves and 2 fish, nothing held back. What is the one concrete way you'll do that this week? How are you leaning into that path of peace? How are you stepping into that abundance? Before you close this episode, I want to speak directly into the tightness you feel around not having enough. You were never meant to be enough. You were meant to be willing. Hand over the 5 loaves. Hand over the 2 fish. Hand over the tiny sacred pieces of you that you've been guarding. God doesn't waste anything you surrender, and He doesn't ask for more than you already have. If this episode moved you, share it with a woman carrying a scarcity story, and stay with me for the next episode in this Advent series. We're building a foundation of faith-based alignment for 2026. Let's go. Before we wrap up, if someone in your world needs this conversation, a founder who's carrying a lot and ready for clarity, send this episode to her. These messages land deeper when we share them. And if you're in that space where you know your business can grow, you feel the potential, but the next strategic step isn't fully clear yet, let's talk. You don't need a new identity. You don't need to force a direction. You just need clarity that's aligned with your goals, your numbers, and the life you want to lead. I invite you to book a call with my team. We'll look at where you are, identify the real leverage points, and map the smartest next move, whether that's one of our free resources, a workshop, or deeper support. Clarity creates momentum. Let's get yours. Let's go. The information in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not legal advice. It's not financial advice. It's not investment advice. Real estate development, like any investment, carries risk. Before you make decisions, you should always consult a licensed professional, your attorney, your CPA, or your financial advisor, to name a few, to make sure you're making the right choice for your situation. I'm here to share insights and strategy, but you're responsible for your own decisions, and each situation is unique. So make sure you contact your professional team to give you your specific guidance for your specific case, as each real estate development's different and unique and has its own challenges and opportunities.